Phoebe might look a bit complex at first glance because of her two states, but I will break her down as simple as possible and show you a rotation example for her on why she rotates the way she does. The most important thing we want to do with Phoebe is cast her heavy attack, which is specifically the Star Flash heavy attack. But how do we cast this Star Flash heavy attack then? Well, it is basically after you have done your basic attack 3 or after a dodge counter. So when you do any of these and you hold your basic attack, then it automatically casts the Star Flash heavy attack. So it's the same. But a certain condition must be met before we can cast this special heavy attack. Sure, we know after a basic attack 3 or dodge counter we get it, but Phoebe must be in a special state though, which is called the absolution state, which is defined by this yellow bar, or the confession state. So only if you're in one of these two states, then the heavy attack you do after your basic attack 3 or dodge counter will cast a special Star Flash heavy attack. And of course, what are the benefits of casting this special heavy attack? Well, for the absolution state, when you cast the heavy attack, the benefit this state will give you is that Star Flash heavy attack does a lot of damage, but only if the enemy has that dot debuff on him, which is called the Spectro Frazzle. So the enemy should have this Spectro Frazzle dot on his head for this Star Flash heavy attack to do extra damage. But it doesn't come for free, this special heavy attack, since it requires something. The thing it consumes is called the Fine Voice, and you will lose 15 of it when you cast a special heavy attack when you're in the absolution state. But what is this Divine Force then? Well, that is this yellow part right here, the one with the vertical bars. Also with the confession state. In total, when you enter either of these states, you get 60 Divine Voice. So when I cast my special heavy attack right after my basic attack 3, that heavy attack will do lots of damage if the enemy has Spectro Frazzle on it when I'm in the absolution state, and it will consume 15 Divine Voice, which is equal to 1/4 of this forte bar, since we start with 60. Okay then, but what are the benefits then when I cast this Star Flash heavy attack when I'm in the confession state then? Well, the benefit for you is that heavy attack now applies 5 Spectro Frazzle. But of course, we don't get it for free, since there's always a thing for free damage like this, and that is that this heavy attack now consumes 30 Divine Voice, which is, as we know, 1 full forte bar is 60, which is a half forte bar. So now you already see, when I'm in the absolution state, I can cast 4 of these Star Flash heavy attacks. When I'm in the confession state, I can cast 2 of these Star Flash heavy attacks. But tracking back now, how do we enter this absolution state and confession state to begin with now? Well, that is when you consume prayer. And there are 2 ways to consume this prayer. Or you hold your basic attack, or you hold your skill. But okay then, what is this prayer then? How do I get it? How much do I need? Well, you need 1 full bar of this thing right here. If this prayer is maxed, only then you're able to consume the prayer to enter a state. So if it's maxed, I hold my skill, I enter this blue state. If I hold my basic attack, I enter the yellow state, the absolution state. Okay then, how do I get this prayer to begin with now? Well, luckily for us, Phoebe gets it automatically. So this prayer, we get 5 per second, and that's it. It is just time-based. Well, how long does it take for the prayer to be maxed then? Well, to fill this whole forte bar, it takes 24 seconds. That's it. And when you enter a state, it will automatically regenerate this prayer in the background, as you can see right here. As you can see, we have been in battle for a couple of seconds, so it has already filled for around 4/10 of the whole forte bar. And that's the same case with the blue state, as you can see right here. It's already filling slowly. So what do we got? We want to cast Phoebe's special Star Flash heavy attack. How do we cast that? Why do we want to cast that special heavy attack? Well, depending on which state we are, so in the yellow state or in the blue state, that Star Flash heavy attack will do something special. For in the yellow state, it will do more damage if the enemy has Spectro Frazzle. For in the blue state, we will apply 5 Spectro Frazzle. But it doesn't come for cheap, since it consumes something, and that is the Divine Voice. Okay, how do we get this Divine Voice? When we enter a state, just automatically. Okay, how do I enter this state then? When we consume prayer. How do we consume prayer? And we hold our basic attack or skill, depending on which mode we want to go in. And prayer regenerates automatically in the background, 5 per second, but all you need to remember is it takes around 24 seconds for it to be maxed. So every 24 seconds, you can decide in which state you want to go to do your thing. But how do we cast this Star Flash Heavy attack? Well, when we do our basic attack 3, so we do basic attack 1, 2, 3, we have counted, and we hold our basic attack, it automatically casts the Star Flash Heavy attack. Or just do a dodge counter, you hold your basic attack, and voila, Star Flash Heavy attack initiated. There is also one thing that happens when you enter either state, so the absolution state or the confession state, and that is that you apply one Spectro Frazzle to the hit enemy. So if my basic attack here hits the enemy, he has now one Spectro Frazzle application. Or if I hit the enemy with my skill, when holding it, he gets one Spectro Frazzle. But these states also do some other special things. When you're in the confession state and you ult, what happens is that that ult now will apply to the hit enemies 8 Spectro Frazzle. But when you're in the absolution state, then that ultimate now does more damage. That's the difference between the two states when you cast your ultimate. The one applies Spectro Frazzle, the other does more damage. And the one other thing that each state has different from each other is when you cast your outro skill. When you cast your outro, when you're in the confession state, then the ally that comes into the field will reduce the spectral resistance of the enemies around him, which is pretty nice, but also the enemies will take more Spectro Frazzle damage. And also extends the interval of the Spectro damage thing, but all it basically comes down to is you do more Spectro Frazzle damage. And what happens when you outro, when you're in the absolution state? Well, this one is pretty simple. The damage you will do when you outro will now do more damage. So Phoebe will be on the field for a couple of seconds doing this light attack in the background, which now does more damage because you were in the absolution state. And now you might already see that being in the absolution state basically lets you do more damage in general compared to the confession state because of all these damage ups you get. And you can cast your Star Flash Heavy attack 4 times because it now consumes less. But there's also one other special thing with Phoebe, and that's her skill. So let's split this skill up a bit like this. When you cast Phoebe's skill, so her skill 1, it will do something special. The first special thing it does is that the enemies will get this weird yellow glow around them. And what this means is basically that the enemies are now stunned. So they can't do anything now. They will be stunned for 2 seconds. And only max 12 enemies can be stunned at that time. And only the enemies hit by this kill who are in this special ring that spawns when you cast Phoebe's skill will get stunned. And this ring lasts for quite some time, 30 seconds. But the enemies are not trapped in this ring. They can just walk out of it. So with those moving enemies, it's quite a shame. Why is that a shame? Well, when you basic attack the enemies or dodge counter the enemies while Phoebe is outside the ring and you hit these enemies, these attacks of Phoebe will get refracted, will do a bit more damage, and it will pull the enemies to the center of the ring by a little bit the whole time when you attack them. So this naturally means that we want to have the enemies in the ring, so we can do that little bit more extra damage to them and pull them towards the ring when we attack them. But the real special thing with the ring is this, and that is that when Phoebe is inside the ring and she does her basic attacks or dodge counters, those basic attacks and dodge counters now will do quite some damage. Because Phoebe is inside the ring now, the basic attacks are now looking a bit different, they are enhanced, you can say. So in the best case scenario, you want to be in the ring with the enemies when basic attacking them or dodge countering them, because you will do way more damage that way. And now, the only thing that's missing is Phoebe's intro skill. What does that do? Well, when you intro into Phoebe, let's say the yellow puppet is Phoebe, the enemies you hit when you intro into her will get knocked back. That's it. They will just shift a bit, which hopefully does not knock out enemies outside of the ring. But yeah, by that time, when you intro into Phoebe, you already should have her skill, so you can spawn a new ring immediately. And if by some reason you're at the other side of the map and the ring is at the other side and you've already cast your skill, well, you can also cast skill 2 when you've cast your first skill. And what does that skill 2 do? So you cast your skill, you can see that you can cast your skill again. That skill 2 will teleport Phoebe inside the ring. That's it. And it will do a little bit of damage. But it has a bit of a long animation time. So favorably, you already want to be close with the enemy and juke all his attacks in the best case scenario, instead of using this second skill first. But yeah, in some situations, you can use your second skill if you're really far from it and you don't have the time to walk towards that ring. Whatever happened, it can be useful in some scenarios. And what is one other thing that we need to keep in mind with Phoebe? Well, that is that when you attack the enemies at the start of your rotation, that you want them to have 10 Spectro Frazzle stacks. Why do we want the enemy to have 10 Spectro Frazzle? Well, that's because Phoebe's best echo set on her will give her nice Spectro damage when you attack enemies who have 10 Spectro Frazzle on them. And if you want to know which echo set, you can have a look at Pride one. You can see what substat, main stats you need. It is just that new echo set which came out in 2.0, which literally has the name of Phoebe's wall persona, which is literally called like something radiance. And what does Phoebe do? Her wall resonance abilities are about radiance, light. So now let's get to Phoebe's rotation. This rotation, I will assume that we'll be in the absolution state, because that is when Phoebe does the most damage. And we need Rover in the team, since Rover will be the one, Spectro Rover specifically, which will provide the enemies with the Spectro Frazzle on them. By no confession state, well, Phoebe will do way less damage now. There is no other character in the Wuthering Waves game now, right now, which makes use of all these Spectro Frazzle applications like Phoebe. So we basically need a Kafka and Honkai Star Rail terms in Wuthering Waves, or someone else who makes use of Phoebe's Spectro Frazzle application on the enemies, but there is no character like that unfortunately. That's why Absolution State will do way more damage, but we do need Spectro Rover in the team, since she will be the one applying the Spectro Frazzle on the enemies. So how does the most basic, perfect Phoebe rotation look like? That's like this. We are on Spectro Rover, she does her Spectro Frazzle applications. When the enemy has 10 Spectro Frazzle, and we can intro into Phoebe, then the rotation of Phoebe starts. So the enemy has 10 Spectro Frazzle because of Rover, and we intro into Phoebe now. And she knocks back the enemies. So step one, okay? What now? Well, since it's the start of the battle, Phoebe's prayer should be full, should be maxed. What does that mean? We can immediately consume that prayer to go into the absolution state. But before that, we need to remind ourselves, Phoebe has an echo, so we can immediately echo when we intro with Phoebe. That's step 2. So step 2 is use Phoebe's echo. And specifically, in this case, the nightmare version of the Morning X. So he will just do his thing. When we have summoned that echo, it won't take us any time. We now should immediately halt our basic attack to enter the absolution state, since our prayer is maxed when we intro into Phoebe. And one thing, because we have introed with Phoebe, and Phoebe has attacked enemies here, and assuming the enemies have 10 Spectro Frazzle, we immediately get this nice Spectro damage bonus because of Rover's nice Spectro Frazzle application. But okay, coming back, we hold basic attack, we are in the absolution state. What now? Now we go through the list. In the background, the prayer is ticking since we get 5 every second. Nice, we are not overcapping. We can now cast our skill 1. And what does that do? We spawn a ring and enemies in it get stunned. Nice. So step 4, skill 1. Preferably, when casting the skill, we should be in the ring too, because now our basic attacks can do way more damage compared to when we are on the outside. We are in it. Before we basic attack, we want to ult immediately too, so that we have it ready for the next rotation, since we will repeat everything again. So step 5 will be ultimate and not skill 2ing, because it takes quite a lot of animation time, like 0.5 seconds, 0.8 seconds. It does little damage. So preferably when you cast your skill, you should already be with the enemy in the ring. Okay, we have cast our ult. The prayer is ticking in the background. We get 5 every second. Our ult is depleted. Now we can start the nice basic attack and heavy attack spamming. So what do? Step 6 is basic attack 1, 2, 3, and hold our basic attack to cast a Star Flash heavy attack. But of course, when we're fighting against the enemies, sometimes we need to dodge and then do the heavy attack. So this could be step 6 too, and then step 7 this, depends situation. And how many times can we do this? Well, it takes 15 Divine Voice. How many do we start with? 60. So 60 divided by 15 is 4 times. So we do our basic attack 4 times. After we have depleted our wall Divine Voice, so everything of this, what do we do now? Well, by that time, probably your skill will be up. So we can now skill, and our outro should be available by now. And when we outro, what outro happens? Well, this one, since we are in the absolution state. So even if we have 0 Divine Voice, we still are in the absolution state. Only at the start of the battle, when you haven't entered any state, you don't have any state, which will look something like this, as you can see. There is nothing here. There is no yellow or blue state indication here. So even if we have 0 confession or 0 absolution, we still are in that state. But now we cannot cast our Starflash heavy attack, since we cannot meet the requirements of consuming 15 Divine Voice or 30. And Phoebe is as easy as that. You just repeat this whole process again and again. Get your Tower Adversity rewards or that new Wuthering somewhat endgame mode that just came out, and you're good to go. Of course, not everything can work in practice perfectly like this. Sometimes you mess up a rotation here and there. Doesn't matter, just retry, get your rewards. If you got all your time limit rewards, you're good to go, no stress. And I hope for you that you got Phoebe, since I tried to get Phoebe and I lost my 50-50, and I did the pull for every push I did when summoning for her, It was super, super difficult for me. So if you're interested in how that went, have a look at that one. I thank you for paying attention and see you the next time. Bye.